The end of the Second World War generated in the young Ratzinger and his peers a feeling of profound gratitude for their recovered freedom. The little things acquired an extraordinary value, and institutions like the family and friendships were reinforced as a guide for young people that began to dream of a future again. On September 2, 1945, the war ended. During the months that followed, Joseph dedicated the majority of his time to reading philosophical and theological texts. In a Germany destroyed by the war, it wasn't easy to find sufficient and adequate bibliographical resources. But thanks to his parish priest in the library of the minor seminary in Traunstein, he began to be formed ahead of the first big step that lay ahead for him, entry into the seminary of Freising. After Christmas of 1945, despite not being in perfect condition, the seminary opened its doors to a group of 120 seminarians from between 18 and 40 years of age. A mixed group, but one united by a hunger for knowledge and service of the church. In 1947, the young Ratzinger concluded the cycle of philosophical studies and decided to pursue theological studies at the University of Munich. In 1949, Joseph dedicated his summer holidays that year to working on his PhD thesis. And in October, he received his ordination to the diaconate and had to start preparing for the sacrament of the priesthood at Freising Seminary. Despite the many difficulties, Joseph was able to reconcile the two things, thanks to the help of his classmates at the seminary and his family. Finally, on June 29, 1951, Joseph Ratzinger and his brother Georg received the sacrament of Holy Orders at the Cathedral of Freising, a day Benedict XVI would remember on numerous occasions over the course of his pontificate. In 1952, he left Munich and accepted a professorship in the Freising Seminary. A year later, he obtained a doctorate in theology. The next step was his qualification as a university docent. Over the next year, Ratzinger spent his days between responsibilities as a professor, pastoral duties, and preparation for the exam. The topic chosen for the final test was Revelation and Salvation History in Bonaventure, a thesis that some professors saw as extremely revolutionary, and it was only accepted after several changes were made. On January 1, 1958, Joseph began his first job as a professor of dogmatics and fundamental theology in the Philosophical and Theological Seminary of Freising. In the summer of that same year, his father died. During the years that followed, Joseph Ratzinger taught in the universities of Bonn, Münster, and Tübingen. With the beginning of the Second Vatican Council in 1962, Cardinal Frings, Archbishop of Cologne and member of the Preparatory Commission, called on Ratzinger as a theological consultant. From that moment until the end of the council in 1965, the young Joseph lived between Rome and Münster. The following years were characterized by the infiltration of Marxism into university environments, including the theology departments, and the University of Tübingen didn't escape the dominant Marxist messianism. 2 years of strong tensions at the university went by, and Ratzinger decided to accept a department chair position at the University of Regensburg, where his brother had already been living since 1963. The first years in Regensburg coincided with determinant moments in Joseph's life. Pope Paul VI called on him to be part of the Pontifical International Theological Commission, and in this same period, Paul VI's Missal was published that almost completely prohibited the use of Pius V's Missal. It was an unprecedented initiative in the history of the liturgy that the young Ratzinger lived with great restlessness. But in general, the years in Regensburg would be a period of fruitful theological work for him. The years went by, and on the Vigil of Pentecost in 1977, Joseph Ratzinger was ordained Archbishop of Munich and Freising in Munich's cathedral. It was a day that he remembered with particular emotion in 2006 during his apostolic voyage in Bavaria. The new archbishop chose "Cooperators of Truth" as his episcopal motto. In these few words, he saw a continuity between his mission as professor, theologian, and bishop, all three centered on the search for truth. Benedict XVI would describe the moment of his episcopal consecration as his present, a now that wasn't a memory, but a continuous present of what was and would be his life from that moment on.